Okay, let's take a look at menstrual cycle. Okay, so in menstrual cycle, there are a few definitions that you need to take note. What is the definition of menstrual cycle? What's the definition of menstruation, ovulation, and also fertile period? Okay, I already provide a few selection over here. So menstrual cycle is actually a monthly cycle of menstruation and ovulation to prepare a woman for possible pregnancy. How about the definition of menstruation? Menstruation is the periodic shedding of the uterine lining together with blood and unfertilized ovum through the vagina. And ovulation? Ovulation occurs when ovary release a mature ovum into the fallopian tube. And the fertile period? The fertile period's definition refers to the period when sexual intercourse will likely result in pregnancy. Okay, it doesn't. It is usually from day 11 to day 17 of the menstrual cycle. Okay, so take note. It is a period where sexual intercourse result in pregnancy, likely result in pregnancy. Okay, it doesn't refer to the period where fertilization occurs, because fertilization may occur on day 14, 15, 16, and 17. Okay, 11 all the way to 14 is not. Okay, it's not fertilization. Okay, move this. Okay, let's take a look at menstrual cycle in detail. Here, you need to know how to look at this table. This yellow section here refers to what happened inside the ovaries. Okay, so inside the ovaries, basically you have follicles, and then after ovulation, the follicles will develop into corpus luteum. Pituitary gland will secrete two types of hormones: the FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone. Okay, this section is colored orange. And then levels of ovarian hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Okay, this section is colored pink. Here you can see how the levels of estrogen, be it low or high, will affect the menstrual cycle. Okay. As for the purple section, we will be looking at the thickness of the uterine lining. Okay, is it getting thicker? Is it at its thickest? Or is it shedding? Or is it at its thinnest? Okay. And lastly, the blue ones is there to tell you what are the events. Okay, menstruation, which is an event, ovulation, which is an event, implantation, if there's fertilization, is also an event. Okay, let's take a look at menstrual cycles slowly, one by one. Okay, so here notice day -1. So menstrual cycle normally start on day 1. So one day before that, this is what happened. Okay, inside the ovaries, the previous cycle's corpus luteum start to break down. Okay, so when it break down, give me a moment. When it break down, when corpus luteum breaks down, there is no longer estrogen and progesterone. Why? Because corpus luteum is responsible for the secretion of estrogen and progesterone. So when the entity that secretes them breaks down, there will be very, very low levels of estrogen and progesterone. Okay, So notice estrogen and progesterone decrease drastically. So when estrogen and progesterone decrease drastically, this causes uterine lining to break down. Okay? Why? Because estrogen and progesterone, mainly the progesterone, is there to maintain the uterine lining so that the uterine lining will stay put. If there's no longer progesterone, the uterine lining will break down and start to shed. Okay? So when the uterine lining breaks down, this event is called menstruation. Okay? At the same time, low levels of estrogen and progesterone no longer inhibits FSH. Okay? Inhibits here means you stop the secretion of FSH. So if there is no longer a stop to the secretion, then FSH is secreted. Okay? So low level of estrogen and progesterone no longer inhibits secretion of FSH. So this results in FSH being secreted by the pituitary gland. Okay, so when FSH is secreted, FSH start to stimulate one out of many follicles to develop into primary follicles. So you can imagine that a baby girl is born with roughly 50,000 follicles, immature follicles. Okay, so after the baby girl or after the girl hit puberty, each month, one of the follicle will be selected to develop. Okay, so these developed follicles eventually will release ovum. Okay, so we'll look at it later. So FSH, also known as follicle stimulating hormone, as the name suggests, it stimulates the development of follicle. Okay, so FSH stimulates one out of many follicles to develop into primary follicles. Okay, let's take a look at the next section. So you can imagine day 1 to day 5. Day 1 to day 5, this is when menstruation occurs, uterine lining shed. Okay, from day 1 onwards, FSH is secreted. Okay, causing one of the follicles to develop into primary follicles. Okay, so the primary follicles will grow in size. Okay, so it will grow in size, develop from primary to secondary follicle, and then eventually into a mature grafting follicle. All this happened before day 14. Okay, that is day 1 to day 13. Okay, why? Thanks to the secretion of FSH, okay, which occur from day 1 all the way to day 13. Follicles doesn't just sit around in the ovary. The follicle cells will secrete estrogen. Okay, and rising level of estrogen will stimulate the uterine lining to repair itself. Okay, as follicle grows in size, the secretion of estrogen increase as well. So you can imagine one cell secretes 0.01 ml or maybe 0.01 gram. Okay, if you have 2 cells, you can secrete 0.02. If you have 3 cells, you can secrete 0.03. So when the cells or the follicles gets bigger in size, say it turns from 10 to 100, so the secretion of estrogen will also increase by 10-fold. Just an example, okay? So when follicles grow in size, when follicle grow from primary follicle to secondary follicle to Graafian follicle, okay, the secretion of estrogen will also increase. Then roughly around day 13, extremely high level of progesterone will stimulate the pituitary gland to, give me a moment, let me switch this graph. So normally, 1 day before ovulation, this is what happened. Okay, 1 day before ovulation, Extremely high level of estrogen will stimulate the pituitary gland to secrete LH, which is also known as the luteinizing hormone. Okay, so you can imagine that LH was at its all-time low, then suddenly on day 14, it will peak, so go up, and then come down again, like that. So increasing level of LH will cause Graafian follicle to rupture. So when Graafian follicle rupture, it will release the mature ovum into the fallopian tube. Okay, and this event is known as ovulation. Okay, LH doesn't just cause Graafian follicle to rupture, it also stimulates the residual bodies. Residual bodies refers to what was left of the Graafian follicle. Remember, you have Graafian follicle look like this. Graafian follicle has a liquid sac, and then this is the ovary. So when it ruptures, this is what happened. Give me a moment. When it ruptured, the liquid will push the ovum out. And then the ovum will be sent into the fallopian tube, which is found nearby. Okay, and then the Graafian follicle is found inside the ovary. So remember, the ovum will be sent into the fallopian tube. But what was left behind earlier, this one, there are still cells around here, right? These cells will be converted to corpus luteum thanks to the stimulation of LH. So luteinizing hormones stimulate whatever left behind, we call it the residual bodies, to develop into corpus luteum. Okay, so the same body that was secreting estrogen, the same body that was known as Graafian follicle earlier, okay, thanks to the stimulation of luteinizing hormone, it's changed into corpus luteum. Okay, let's move on to the next part. So now we have corpus luteum. Corpus luteum secretes both progesterone and estrogen. Remember earlier, you have follicles. Follicles only secrete corpus luteum secretes both estrogen and progesterone, but follicles secrete only estrogen. Okay, so corpus luteum will continue to degenerate slowly. Why? Because of the low levels of FSH and LH. You can think of it this way. Corpus luteum secretes large amount of progesterone. Progesterone will ask the pituitary gland to stop producing FSH and LH. And then low levels of FSH and LH will cause corpus luteum to slowly degenerate. Okay? And thanks to the progesterone, we have the maintenance of uterine lining, the thickening of the uterine lining, and also vascularization. Vascularization here means more blood vessels is built in the uterine lining. Okay, getting ready for implantation. Okay, that is from day 15 all the way to day 27. You can see that all this will occur. But in certain period in between 15 to 27, we have day 21 to 25. During this day, the uterine lining is at its thickest. Hence, it is most suitable for implantation to occur. So the event that occurs from day 21 to 25 likely is implantation, if there is fertilization. If there's no fertilization, then implantation will not occur. And then remember, our corpus luteum continue to degenerate slowly from day 15 all the way to day 27. By the day 28, corpus luteum will break down. So when corpus luteum break down, it can no longer secrete estrogen and progesterone. Voila, we go back to the one earlier. We go back to this, and yeah, we go back to this day -1, and the cycle repeats. Okay? Give me a moment. Let me remove the annotation first. So this is menstrual cycle.